So welcome back to the Official Visit podcast. Our guest this week is Bralon Addison, junior wide receiver. Sat out last season with a knee injury back, and talking with Matt Lubick, his coach, a couple days ago, said that in testing, your once injured knee is now stronger as the numbers show than your other knee. Mm-hmm. Is that indeed the case?
Yeah. With so much rehab, man, you just kind of just focus on it. You do so much with that one leg that, it's not significant, but because you do so much on it, you're focusing on it so much during those, months of rehab, it kind of becomes like more stable than the other one.
I know, so I cover the baseball team as well, mm-hmm. and I know like when a lot of pitchers are coming back from like Tommy John injury or something, like it was a case where before they weren't necessarily taking care of that arm like they should have, and not saying that you weren't with your knee, but mm-hmm. is that kind of what that's like? Is like now all of a sudden like you're doing things very specifically for?
It's definitely more focus, to kind of take care of, first off the knees, but even more the body, just itself, period. I started, when I first started here as a freshman, of course, I didn't really know the ropes about fall camp and things like that. Like, we had it in high school, but it wasn't as, like, detailed schedule-wise as this. So, I would stay up all night playing video games and then just roll into practice the next morning. So, now after having those 3 years under my belt and an injury, I just know that, after these practices, you got to go home. Maybe you can chill for about an hour, and then you got to get to bed, because that's pretty much the most important thing is, getting that treatment and then making sure your body is well rested.
Is there anything specific about being out for a year that people maybe don't get or don't know something that happens? I know everyone knows there's like a lot of rehab and
mm-hmm.
a guy's got to be really dedicated to get back, but is there anything that you didn't know that went into that?
I don't think a lot of guys will say it to somebody personally, but I think it's an emotional thing. After you just, so much of your time is football meetings, game, football meetings, game, and then it's rehab meetings, meetings, watch on Saturday, cheer everybody on. You got to be a good teammate, but at the same time, it's that emotional thing where you don't get to go out there and have your adrenaline pumping to go out there and play and hit somebody. I think a lot of guys won't say it, but it's pretty hard mentally to get over that curve of just sitting out for a year.
And you're rehabbing mm-hmm. during practice, so
mm-hmm.
you're not even necessarily watching them practice sometimes?
Most of the practice is basically your rehab time, and then, of course, you come in the morning for treatment, and then, you go to practice, you rehab, then you watch the end of practice, then after that you go back to treatment, some more rehab, and then you go to meetings, then you go back for some more rehab, and then on Saturday you might go to treatment before the game, and then you walk out there in your sweats, everybody gets to go, hoorah, and play, and you just sit there and watch. So, like I said, it's kind of that, like, I wouldn't even say it was a depression, but it's kind of like that curve you have to get over where halfway through you're like, okay, it's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Did anyone prep you for that, for like that emotional? Because I'm sure the trainers see that all the time, but maybe mm-hmm. it's not their place to bring that up. I don't know. Does anyone kind of say, look, this is going to be a little more tough, it's not just physical?
Definitely people tell you, but like I said, the guys that actually go through it, they won't talk to you in depth about it because, nobody wants to say, oh, well, I was a little depressed because I couldn't play football. So, people will say, like, it's going to be hard because you got to sit out, but you don't really know the extent of it until you have to sit out.
Yeah, like a code of honor, but sometimes it could be helpful if people opened up a little more.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to high school. Mm-hmm. Start from there real quick. Option quarterback. Mm-hmm. You had 3 beautiful passes in the spring game. Mm-hmm. Did any part of that rekindle that part of your career where you're an option quarterback? I mean, do you miss that?
It's funny because all the guys, like, when we're at practices sometimes, like, as a receiver, you catch the ball and you throw it back. And, like, sometimes receivers make jokes about that was a pretty ball and things like that. So, Coach Frost just always tells me, man, keep your arm warm because you never know when we might throw in a straight play. And, in the spring game, he let me toss it around a little bit. So, to be a running quarterback in high school, I threw the ball fairly well. So, I definitely get out there sometimes. And even when we're, like, during our walkthrough part of practice and, as receivers, we're just going through stuff. Coach Lubick will let me throw some of the routes sometimes. So,
who's got the best non-quarterback arm on the team?
Excluding myself, Byron has a pretty good arm too. I guess not a Ty Griffin's not a quarterback.
Yeah, true. Right?
Ty Griffin.
What about John Neal? He swore to me a couple years ago that he had an excellent arm. Can you vouch for that, or is it just okay?
That might have been a couple of years before I got here. I mean, I've seen Coach Neal toss it around a little bit. I've seen Coach Huff throw it once. Coach Huff has a nice arm. Of course, he was a quarterback. Coach Frost, he has a decent arm. You know who has a surprisingly decent arm? Coach Bernardi. He has a nice arm. He throws to the linemen before our games. He'll throw to them, and so he has a pretty nice arm too.
All those years building up that strength from snapping.
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt. Yeah.
Exactly.
Every time anybody ever asks Helfrich about his college or playing days or whatever, he's always very self-deprecating. Like you know, he will never acknowledge like he was good at anything or whatnot. I mean, does it look like he could have played?
I mean, that's just Coach Helfrich.
Yeah.
You know, the utmost humble guy. You know, I think that's kind of the way he recruits his teams. Also, is just good character guys, good humble guys, but. Don't let him fool you. He's got a pretty good arm.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a quarterback for nothing.
Yeah,
so
right.
He has a nice arm.
What do you see about him year 3? I mean, you've been here the whole time that he's kind of broken into this role. I think the majority of people would agree that he's that kind of Chip Kelly monkey is off his back. But do you see, is he more comfortable in his own skin? I mean, what do you see from year 1 to year now?
I definitely just Coach Helfrich is a guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a guy that he's a learner. And also a teacher. So, he teaches things, but he also does a great job at learning. And I think, that's why he's had continued success as far as, his first year bowl appearance, second year, the best bowl appearances you can have. And I can only anticipate that it will keep getting better because he just learns. And, of course, with Coach Kelly being the great coach that he was, everybody's going to be, well, now what is Coach Helfrich going to do? But like you said, I think he kind of has that monkey off his back now. And, coming into his first recruiting class now, I think he's going to do a great job, man. He's an awesome guy, family guy, learner, and he just wants to be the best. He wants to keep learning and just help better himself and help better us as a team.
A lot of guys, I bring this up because I know you have said previously that you could see yourself doing kind of an on-camera role, be a sportscaster. Maybe that's not what you want to do now, but a couple years ago you said that's something that you at least entertain the idea of. So for you, who is very kind of aware of media, a lot of guys say they just block it out during the season. How much do you take in during the football season when it comes to like what your own team, Ducks? Obviously, there's a lot of NFL. You're from Houston. You follow the Texans, I'm sure. But when it comes to Oregon, like, how much do you digest from what the media says?
I mean, I pay attention to it a lot. I think it's kind of our social aspect of the era we're in now. And I know a lot of coaches or a lot of people don't like it as far as, they think it's a distraction. But, I mean, the reality is that it's out there. So I think I'd rather be educated in the fact that knowing it's there, knowing what's going on in it, instead of not paying attention to it. And then when I'm thrown in the fire, kind of being, at a disadvantage. So, I pay attention to a lot of sports. I pay attention to, of course, the coverage of us. I pay attention to coverage of all college teams, my favorite NFL teams, NFL period, basketball. I just love being involved in sports and the media aspect combined together.
I think it was about 2 weeks ago I had asked you about like the whole Vernon thing and whether this was like a big spectacle and whether or not you guys were aware of it. But I thought you gave a pretty good answer of just saying like, hey, we're all adults. Like we know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I know guys probably get frustrated about it, but I mean, hey, it's the reality of it. I mean, we just had probably one of the best college quarterbacks to ever play, and now he's gone. Everybody wants to know like who's next, what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? So we know that it's going to come up. Right. So can't overreact about it.
Yeah. Marcus was a decent player.
Yeah, he's all right.
I actually had a guy email me last night saying that Oregon will be just fine. Told me to move on from writing about Marcus, which I don't think I really have, except for one article in a long time.
You got to get off it. Right?
Yeah,
move on.
He was telling me to move on because all this next quarterback needed to do was just do his job and just better last year's production. And I wrote back saying it's really not that simple. You do realize how good that quarterback was.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
it seemed a little bizarre.
Yeah.
All he has to do is be better than Marcus.
Yeah, it's hard not to talk about a guy like that, man. What are the chances you get a guy like that that's so great on football? He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's this, and that. And then when you go in the community, you hear people, he's the nicest guy I've ever met. You know, you talk to some random lady in the street, oh, he's so nice and this and this and that. He signed my kid. You know, so it's hard to just forget about a guy like that. You know what I mean? So, of course,
carried my groceries into the house for
exactly.
me.
So every fan they want to just, you know, you understand they're a fan. He wants to support our team, and he just wants to, you know, make sure we're doing the best that we can, knowing that we don't have Marcus. But
right.
like you said, I mean, the guy was awesome.
Health was saying, I call him Health Rich was saying that a 2-quarterback system can work if two guys are sufficiently different. I think I know, like, from just our outsider perspective, how Vernon and Jeff are different. But like, you play with them. How are they different, and how would that work to where it would give a defense two different looks?
No, Vernon is more of a deep threat passer. You know, that's what he was at Eastern Washington. He does a great job of throwing the deep ball. And, you know, Jeff is precise, man. He's accurate. You know, Jeff, I mean, you all saw he was perfect in the spring game. You know, he's a guy you don't have to worry about mistakes. And I mean, every quarterback's going to make mistakes when I say that. But, I mean, as far as, like, the little mistakes are things that, you know, throwing a dumb ball in a double coverage, you don't have to worry about that with Jeff. He's an efficient guy. You know, I think as a coach, you can be relaxed when the ball's in his hands. And, you know, the same as with Vernon, you know, I think they just have different let me see. I would say Vernon is like Jay Cutler. When everybody loved Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I was about to say.
When everybody loved.
What era, Jay Cutler?
When everybody loved Jay Cutler.
Yeah, we talking like Brandon Marshall talking about Jay Cutler.
When everybody loved Jay Cutler. You know, I think Jay is still a good quarterback, man. He just, you know, he had a couple rough years, but, you know, I think Vernon's a gunslinger, man. He gets the ball there, he puts it out there and things like that. And I think Jeff is, when I say this, don't react, because I'm not saying he's that elite yet. But Tom Brady, you know, Tom Brady, he might not throw the ball 70 yards every time, but he's going to throw a 10-yard pass here, and then he'll throw a 15-yard pass and a 5-yard pass here, but he's just consistent. And, you know, I think that's how I kind of look at it.
So we got you on record here saying that Jeff Locke is probably a cheater.
No, I'm
not. That's an exclusive.
I'm not saying that Tom Brady's a cheater. You know what I mean? Personally, I'm a Peyton Manning fan. I love Peyton Manning, but hey, you know, Tom Brady, he's an elite guy. I mean, you know, before he was there, the Patriots were going to Super Bowls, and then, you know, they weren't winning them. But when he comes, they start winning them. And hey,
since we're going off the rails this way, do you guys notice how inflated footballs are? Do you know anything about football?
I mean, just being honest, yes. I mean,
because Lane Kiffin deflated the balls.
Yeah, if you have a slightly deflated football, it's way easier to catch. You know, I can go out there and catch Odell Beckham balls all day if I had a deflated football. You know what I mean? So
give me a Nerf ball and I'm elite.
Exactly. You can squeeze it in and keep running. So I mean, you can notice the difference. But I mean, I was kind of skeptical when that thing came out, man, because I mean, in between plays, wouldn't the refs notice that, you know, when they're switching in the balls in and out? So, I mean, hey, who knows?
Well, like, if the refs knew beforehand, why didn't they?
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, fair to say, Vernon is perhaps more high risk, high reward at this point. Is that the vibe? If it's not,
I wouldn't say high risk. He's more. I can't say high risk.
Sure.
Let me, how can I put this?
Washington and Oregon State wouldn't say high risk with the way he played against them.
Of course not. No, I think they just bring their different playing styles. You know, Jeff loves the sure pass, and Vernon likes the 3-ball. I mean, you know, Jeff, he shoots mid-range jumpers, and he's more like Tim Duncan, and Vernon's Steph Curry. So I mean, hey, they're both great guys, but hey, they just bring different things to the table.
Okay. Speaking of comparisons, real quick, John Neal compared Tyree Robinson to Richard Sherman's mobility a couple weeks ago. Said he was that like. What do you,
I saw that.
What do you make of that? I mean, I'm not doubting that he is like you. He's not saying he's Richard Sherman, but he's saying just the way he uses his hips. But like,
you know, that's why I kind of retweeted it. You know, because Tyree, he's long, he's tall like Richard. He moves like, you know, he's kind of lanky. He's long, right? He's rangy. He can cover, you know, small grounds, more small spaces more than others can because of his range. And, he has good hips. He turns well and things like that. So, I don't think Coach Neal was saying he was as good as Richard Sherman, but the way they move,
right.
I think it is a lot of, similar comparisons. And, I think if, somebody after this year, if they turn on the film and they watch the two comparisons, you'll see it is a similarity.
Okay. You've been watching Hard Knocks?
I actually haven't, man. With so much camp and things like that, But when I'm talking on the phone to my friends all the time, they kind of update me on what's going on. I saw, of course, the little thing with DeAndre Hopkins and D'Angelo Hall. I saw that, so I haven't really been able to follow it, but I've been.
What do you think it would be like practicing or in that environment with just cameras all over the place? You guys get a little bit of that, like the one day the Pac-12 network's here, right?
Yeah, I've always been I always wanted to be at a kind of NFL practice when that stuff is when a team is going through Hard Knocks, when they're the Hard Knocks team of the year. I always wanted to kind of see how that is because I feel those guys know the cameras are there. So somebody I'm not very much of a talker. But if I'm mic'd up, I might talk a little bit more. I might do something. So I just kind of wanted to see how much guys change when those people are there, and, and when they're not there, how much different it is.
So that's the thing I was going to ask you is because I think there was a clip of Helfrich mic'd up from when Pac-12 was here. Is that what he's like during practice? Is he putting on a little bit of extra pizzazz?
No, Coach Helf, he's a communicator, man. That's one of the things he always talks about is making sure communication is the best it can be. We play against 55,000+ every weekend, so that's his thing, man. He loves to communicate. When we have our walkthroughs out there, that's what he stresses. He stresses communication. And it's funny because times when we don't communicate as well, something will happen and he'll better say communication. And he's just sometimes as a player, in our young minds, we think how much of a difference is it going to make if I yell at him 3 times, oh, do this, do this, do this, and then boom, somebody's throwing a touchdown on us or somebody missed a block because you didn't get the same signal. So Coach Helfrich is actually a very detailed communicator.
It's like when you're playing basketball and your buddy calls out every screen except for that one,
exactly,
and you get crushed on it, and
Yeah, exactly. That is the perfect comparison.
It's like when I beat you in Utah.
Right.
Speaking of basketball, I don't know if you guys have talked to Coach Lubick lately, but just ask him about his basketball skills, man. He likes to brag about his skills in basketball.
Does he?
He was bragging about his 400-meter running skills.
Oh, yeah.
The other day, how he likes to take you guys out there and race you in 400 meters, and only Devin, I should say, has beaten him. So what's his basketball trick? How?
He wouldn't have played at Kentucky or anything. He's not bad. He has a nice little jump shot, man. I was actually surprised because I thought, when I first met Coach Lubick, I think he was a basketball player at all, but he has a nice little jump shot, man. But yeah, his 400 meters, he loves that. Any way he can find to make one of us line up against him and run, 400s up and down the field, he'll find that way. And Devin is so far the only person to beat him. So
who's the best hoops player on the team?
The best hoops player on the team. Man, that's tough. We got a lot of good players on this team, to be honest with you. A lot. We actually play a lot. Got a lot of good players.
Is that how you saw Lubick's skills? How does that come out? There's not a setting where
Lubick just showed up one morning talking about how good.
So we were actually at Coach Campbell's house
in the Hatfield Dowling complex we don't know about.
No, I wish, man.
Yeah, it's in the same getaway tunnel that they're able to.
I would spend a lot of time there if it was. I would, but we were actually at Coach Campbell's house for a kind of position barbecue, the wide receivers and running backs, kind of mended together on that, and some kind of way the running backs got this wild imagination idea out of their heads that they could beat the wide receivers in a position group battle of basketball. And personally, as a whole, the wide receivers, man, we got some hoopers in that group. So I think if we took every position group and everybody played each other, I think the wide receivers would win by a long shot.
Dwayne's got 5 inches on everybody too.
Yeah, him, Darren, Dwayne, me, Byron, and probably Alex would be our starting 5.
Yeah, but can't Royce just turn his back and back everybody?
See, I mean, we got Darren and Dwayne down there holding the paint. I mean,
Sure.
hey, I don't know how much. I'm telling you, man, the wide receivers, we got some ballers in there, man.
And this is after Johnny Lloyd left the team too.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
this is without former.
So
Pac-12 tournament MVP.
last year it might have been worse. Yeah, it might have been worse because John, he, like you said, Pac-12 MVP. It would probably be even.
Do you see Johnny was playing in some USA tournament, like on Team USA in China this summer? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure like which branch of what Team USA it was, but I kept getting press releases like Johnny was scoring like 20 points a game on like China and Taipei.
That doesn't surprise me, man. He's a baller, man.
Speaking of pros, you were talking about Marcus earlier, and before we started recording, we talked about how you play video games a lot. Is it weird to see Marcus in a video game? 'Cause I'm guessing you might have the newest copy of Madden.
Yeah, of course.
Is it weird to play with a guy you've known pretty well? Obviously, he's not the first guy you've ever known to go pro.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's like when I was a little kid, man. Every year I would wait for that new football, that new Madden, that new NCAA to come out just to play with the guys that I looked up to or I know. Well, at first I looked up to because I was too young to have known guys that were there. But then once I got to high school and once my friends started going off to college, I would wait for that new NCAA to kind of play with the guys that are in college, that I know. So now it's like 2 years ago when I was a freshman, and then guys go to the NFL, and then my sophomore year, a guy that I'm super close to, Josh, goes. It's like, man, I get to play with Josh on Madden now, and it's just like it's just exciting every year to know that I get to play with guys on a video game that I know. So like I would play with the Eagles, and I would try to throw the ball to Josh like 12 times, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns.
If you throw some picks with Marcus,
so I play with Marcus now, and man, I just I take off running, maybe 7 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns.
Were you ever the guy who would create your own character and put?
Oh yeah, when I was younger, man, I would create my own characters. I would create a running back that was 7 foot tall, 400 pounds, and his speed would be the maximum speed he can have. So, I mean, I would never get tackled.
I feel like
you came close to replicating that.
Give me about a foot and 8 more inches, and I would have been there.
Well, anything else you got for Bralon?
I think we should let him go.
I think we've wasted enough of your time so far.
It's fun. I like doing this stuff.
Well, we greatly anticipate you joining the media world one day, whenever that is, whenever your playing career is over. But until then, we'll keep covering you.
Appreciate you guys.